So how many brushes do we really need? I probably have upwards of 100 brushes. I have containers all over my desk full of brushes. But when you're getting started with watercolors, you really don't have to have this many brushes. I have an obsession with brushes. But there are just a few that I highly recommend starting with. The easiest ones to start with are the rounds. Here's a number 6 round, a number 4 round, number 8 round. These are wonderful for starting out with. And then, of course, for small detail, you're going to need a round liner. This is a liner. Sometimes they come with really long ends, which I don't really like that much. Because if you're using a small liner, you're going to be choking it anyway. So why do they have a 1 foot long end on it? I don't know. That's a number 2. These round brushes are very necessary for watercolors, in my opinion. You don't have to have all of them. You could start with just 1 or 2. But the rounds, I think, are pretty basic. I have an angled brush, which is really nice for making straight lines like a fence post or something. Or on a small card, you can even use it for the sky or the background if you're just doing cards. If you're doing anything larger, you're going to need a big brush. If you're doing large canvases, 16 by 18 or 16 by 20, 20 by 24 and on up, you're going to need a big flat brush. This is a square flat, and it's great for skies because it holds a lot of fluid, a lot of paint, and so it'll keep that paint moving for you while you're painting, and you won't have streaks. It's very important if you're going to make a nice smooth sky. That's a 2-inch flat. Now there are a lot of options. This is a soft mop fan. I like it because it holds an enormous amount of water. So sometimes I just use it to wet the paper if I'm doing a smaller piece. But that's not really necessary, so I'm not going to put that in there. I just wanted to show it to you. I would suggest a mop. This one is obviously worn out. It's a number 4. I can't read it. I've used it for so long. It's number 4 Squirrel Hair mop. You don't have to have that. It can be synthetic. This is a synthetic one. They hold enormous amounts of water. And plus, when you get them wet, you can mess with them and create a rough type texture with it, like trees or bushes, without having to switch brushes. But once you wet them, they come down to a nice little point again. But again, they hold a lot of water. So they're very good for doing large areas where you're wanting some texture or shape to it as opposed to the flat that you use with your sky. And then the last one that I would really recommend as a starter, besides a couple of rounds, not necessarily all of these, but this is called a Filbert or a liner. It's not a Filbert. This is a liner, and it has a very narrow, long tip. And the reason for that is, and I'll demonstrate these in a minute, is that with the longness of it, it moves freely. And you can do a lot of like really loose, odd shapes with it, but it's also super fine. There's only just a couple of hairs down at the end of that, which means that if you're doing like dog hair or cat hair or something like grass, little really fine grass, this thing is fantastic for that. So I probably wouldn't start without one of those. There's a lot of other brushes. This is one that makes triple lines. So there's a lot of other kinds of brushes, but these are the ones that I would recommend starting with. This right here is a round, also commonly known as a filbert, because it's flat from the side, but then it's round from the tips. And it's great for doing anything that, like bushes in the background or something, because it's nice and rounded. It won't leave you any sharp corners. So let's go on to demonstrating some of these and seeing what they do. This is the Sky one, or a big 2-inch flat. And they have 1-inch flats also, and half-inch flats and whatnot, if you're just going to do postcard-size paintings. For a Sky, I prefer to pre-wet it. So let's say that that's pre-wet. I pre-mixed a little blue over here, just so that I could spread it on here quickly and easily for you. This puts it out there real quickly. And if I had pre-wet it more, it would look even more even. And if you raise your paper and let the water run down just a little bit, it also evens it out as it is setting. But isn't that a pretty sky? I like the way that this does a brush, or a sky. It's just indispensable. It's to me, it's great for wetting the paper too. If you want to just wet the whole thing down before you do something. And as that, because the paper was pre-wet, it's sort of blending together. It's a really nice effect. So we'll move on to the next largest one that I showed you, which was the big Filbert. And let's say that I wanted some brush in the background here. The Filbert is great for that. See how it's just putting not a huge amount of detail. I can add different amounts. See how that just looks like trees. Now I'm really not having to do very much, so it is really nice for that. And you could darken some of them a little bit. It's just a great little brush. So it definitely has its place in my arsenal. And that is a, what is that, a 3/4 or 1 inch? So number 20 Filbert. That's about 3/4 inches wide. But it's Filbert just means rounded end, but it is flat from the side. Filbert just means rounded from the end, but flat from the side. Put that one away. And then my wonderful, wonderful Squirrel Hair mop. I like this one for different things, but I'll show you what it can do. You can press it down, bring it up. It does great leaves. Watch this. Pressing down and then lifting. Just the tip, and then press down and then lift. Again, press down and then lift. Look at that. It's a beautiful little leaf. And you can come in and add shadow to one side. There's 3 beautiful little leaves, and I hardly did anything. Then you can also sort of smoosh the end of it a little bit and do strange little spongy type shapes with it. So it can do that. And it just holds a lot of water. I just like the way that it holds water for me, so that I can keep moving and keep doing what I want to do. So that is a Squirrel Hair mop. And like I said, there are mops that are synthetic if you're not comfortable using the Squirrel Hair. Just use whatever you're comfortable with. Let's see here. Then the next biggest is our number 8 round. And I like it for just filling areas. If I have a little, let's see, the cabins aren't that color, are they? Let's say I have a little cabin in the background and I want to make a square. This is great for filling it in. I could come in and put a roof on it. You can just do just about anything. If you start out with just a round, you would be just fine. You really don't have to have much more than a couple of brushes to get started, but the round is very necessary, and as far as I'm concerned, like it would be an absolutely necessary for me. It's a strange roof on that cabin, but nevertheless, I'm just playing. Let's see here. You can use a smaller round, the next size down, to put the stem on these little leaves that we did. See what I mean? Or this little flower right here. You can also do smaller leaves with these. That wasn't very wet. Let's do a slightly wetter one. I'm just pressing down a little bit on and then lifting up. See what I mean? And then you can come on the other side and leave a little line in the middle that looks like a vein. There's just so much you can do with a round brush. It's amazing. You can even do tiny bits of grass, but it really works better if it's a very fine round brush for that. Obviously, you can do a lot of detail with a round brush. If you're going to do someone's eyes, you can do a lot of detail with a round. And this is not even a very fine round, but the point that I'm trying to make is that you don't have to have an enormous amount of detail or enormous amount of you don't have to have an enormous number of brushes to accomplish what you need to accomplish. Let's make those eyes brown. Sort of greenish brown right now. Leaving a little highlight in the middle. That was a little too wet, but I am trying to do a quick demonstration, so not going to be super detailed. But the point is, you can do a lot with a little round brush. Let's see here what we have next. We have a liner. This is great for signing your name. I use a liner to sign. You can also do really fine, like in the distance. Let's say there was some fence posts in the distance right here. Oops, that's too fat. Or too much water. There was some fence posts in the distance here. Maybe a gate. You could do all kinds of little detail with that. You can also do little squiggly lines. You can do just about anything with a liner. It'll make really fine grass. Look how wispy that looks. And if you lay it on its side down at the base of the grass, you've got dirt. You can lay any of them on their sides and do things, by the way. Let me show you with a bigger one that we just finished. This was the number 4. If you wanted to do a little grassy knoll or grassy knoll, I'm thinking Kennedy in my brain today. If you wanted to do just a little grassy area, I put 2 colors on my brush. I put a little green and a little raw sienna just for fun. But then you've got 2 colors You've got texture, you've got highlights. It's all in one just by laying it on its side. And then you've got your, I call it a liner. Some people call it a script. It is also known as a rigger. And I don't know where the word rigger came from. It makes me think of rigging on a ship or a boat, but nevertheless, I guess that would be on a sailboat. But this is called a rigger, and it makes a superbly fine point, which not real good for signatures because it can be messy. You know, I'm not going to get much detail on a even though it is a very fine point. I'm not going to get much detail on a signature with this because you can't control it. It sort of does its own thing. But it's great for, you know, in a tree, branches, because it's sort of doing its own thing. But you can sort of guide the general direction of what it's doing. Lots of wispy little lines you can make with this. Just like we did with the liner, except these tend to look a little bit looser just because you don't have as much control in what you're doing because of the long hair. Or not the long tip, long hair, the long whatever it is. It's great for, like, if you had a painting that had straw. Let's say that you had some straw. Oops, I got red in that. I didn't want red. You've got some straw, maybe a Christmas card, and you've got a manger. This will make that straw look great. Very natural. And you add a second color. Neutralize it, make it a little darker. And there's this little bed of straw. Put Jesus on it for your Christmas card. So that is the rigger, script, or liner, whatever you want to call that one. So those are my basic brushes I think you should start with. There's a lot more. This is a 1 inch. This is a 1 inch angled, 3/4 inch angled brush. And it does fill a lot of space. It can do the sky in a small card like this, Christmas cards, which I always do. I like to paint Christmas cards for my family and friends. So this will take care of that real quick without having to have a bigger one. I have a little one that I scrub with. I love this thing. It's totally worn out from over the years, but it's wonderful for dry brush. Like when I laid the other one on its side, this will do it, like go in on top of this and put some texture in it. Because it's barely holds any paint, and it's got a very rough surface. The hairs are just all tore up from years of use. Although you can do that on you can take a new one that's angled like this and do it on a sanding paper for a few minutes, and it'll roughen up all the edges for you and do the same thing as a nice old used one. But I do like that one. Let's see here. This was a weird one. And I think I got it for grass. It's a ridge brush. It's got 3 ridges, and they have them with more or less, but a ridge brush does little, I suppose that could be at the beach, you know, those little fence things at the beach. But it gives you just 3 lines in a row. And if you're going to have to do a whole lot of lines, I suppose that would be helpful. I bought it because I thought it would make good looking grass maybe, but it turns out that it was too even. It just didn't look natural. So I really don't use it. The other thing you could have is this is a scrubber brush, okay? It's very hard. And if you made a boo-boo and you're like, ew, I don't like that, you can come in with your scrubber brush and just take it out. You don't want to scrub too hard, but you can. come in here and clean up whatever it is that you feel didn't belong. You can even completely remove something if you wanted to. If I had good paper, you have to have good paper. If I have good paper and I'm like, oh, I didn't like the way that looked, I can scrub the paint loose and dab it up. That is practically gone. Green is kind of a color that stays. If you have cheap paper, it's going to fall apart pretty easily on you. But otherwise, it works. It's great for removing boo-boos. Well, I hope that gives you a good start on brushes and just a couple examples of extras that you might want. And we'll see you next time. As always, keep on painting.